Yeah. Can you see us as well? Yep. Well, sounds good. Let's wait for another 2-3 minutes so everybody can join up. Meanwhile, you're welcome to write into the chat a couple of words about you and you're interested in the topic. Maybe we'll find, maybe we can suit better our presentation to it. And also it's interesting to know each other. Or maybe just, to make it easier. Yeah, I see Dan who's looking to do ICO soon. Well, I believe most of the people who are here are looking to do the ICO in some future. Well, by the way, before we start the presentation, it's an interesting topic. What's like, there's lots of talk in the market that there would be some end to the ICO era. So they predicted like by the end of last year for some time. But as we know, like for example, in January, there was like around $1 billion raised through the ICO. So like, what's your ideas prediction? What do you think about? Would it end, or would it be the mainstream? Well, while you write, I can share my opinion is that it will definitely evolve into something, because now it's like the madness and the Wild West there. So we now like see that we don't see the history of some company raised the ICO, shipped a great product after a while. Like we can name some examples who are doing it like in the process and who are doing it that well, but we can't in retrospective, say that that was like success after years. We only come to some regulation issues, and yeah, I think it will change somewhere this year, like pretty dramatically. But I think it will be still at the place. And I also think that, well, currently most of the ICOs are raised like through their like crypto community. So most of the ICOs are around crypto, but well, already I know some examples of the charity crowdfunding made through the crypto, and possibly like whenever crypto will get more like better positions in the whole economy, when it will be more used as a vehicle for typical companies, we'll see more standard businesses using it in some way or another. Oh yeah, questions. Good. You can use the Q&A in the Zoom to propose your questions. What's like, again, like for somebody to join, like we will spend like another 1 or 2 minutes to wait for everybody, just chatting around, and then we'll go through the initial presentation. What's your thought on the pros and cons of ICO versus airdrops? To be honest, I didn't have much experience with airdrops, so I'm like accustomed with the concept, and I know that like it can be at least a good marketing tool to get the crowd. But I also read some critics regarding it. So it's an experiment tool, I think. For somebody who doesn't know, airdrops is basically providing the coins for free for some actions, for example, like joining, registering, or sharing on Facebook and so on. And yeah, in this way, some networks, some products gain critical needed traction that afterwards is good for everybody. So it's a stimulus for joining, and after there's lots of people joined, there's more of a need in this network. It's getting more valuable. What are the parameters of the shortlist to shortlist the best ICO? Michul, I really am not the right person to give the investment advice, and we also like this whole. I hope you don't drop just after this. The whole aspect, like there's lots of talks, like lots of groups, meetups, conferences, paid education, and so on around like how to invest in the ICOs, what are the ICOs, how to run an ICO. As we are more of a development company, engineering company, we try to focus mostly on the, not just, code-based developer wise questions, but more of, like how would you do it? Like how would you launch your ICO tech-wise, rather than how to be a good ICO from the marketing point of view or from the market point of view. It's also an interesting question. Maybe we'll ask somebody to some guest speaker for us to talk about it, but we are really good in this part. Okay, thanks everybody for being on the line. We're starting now. So what would be the structure of a section? We're here with, like, I'm Max Semenchuk. I'm here with Kirill Kirikov, our senior blockchain engineer, main technical person in our company, in my opinion. So I'll give we work some time with blockchain development consulting. So we're all we started from 2011, but we did lots of app development, but for last year, we mostly focused on the blockchain. So we developed a couple of blockchain projects for our customers. We started to do our own products. One of them is ICONX, this investor panel for ICO that with which we seem to address some of the issues we found, and we could also use some of our experience. I'll try not to put lots of attention to it. Just know that there is such a thing. But we'll mostly talk if you're going to start an ICO, how will you do it? So again, you're welcome to submit your questions to the section. I think most of them will be answered by the end of my 15 minutes time. But also if you see something suitable to the topic, we may even do it faster. Okay, so business perspective. In our partnership with the team, with the Kirill, I mostly was responsible for the product project management side. So I'm also co-founder of Fire Labs, and I mostly research the topic of decentralization, how would future of organization would look like in some time. Would they be decentralized, autonomous, and so on? How would they work? I do some white paper writing stuff and so on. So I'm doing the research from this business perspective. So what I want to talk about and tell you today is around three things. What is token, and how do what can you do with token? How can Crowdsale look? How you should do it? And also by the end, some advanced techniques you wanna know about. And if you're brave enough, maybe you can also try them out. Airdrops is one of them, basically. So token. I've heard one of the experts in the market telling that token, being initially the engineering slang, is not too clear for the most people in the market. So now if you hear token, you think about the ICO, you think about the equity, you think about price going up, you buying a Lambo and so on. But basically the token came up from the like it's an engineering term for some unique string of numbers or something like that. And this unique string can represent anything. You know, when you authorize to some service, they give you some token, like in Facebook or something for your application. But in the case of the ICO which we're talking about, usually by the token we mean some promise. So you can't, but at the stage of doing the ICO, when you issue a token, this token is basically useless. But in some time, it can be either, it can go to the exchange, or it can be accepted in your product. So we should, you know, like instead of under the title of the token, we need to understand what is the promise about. And well, currently there was this like coin economy. There was some perspective of the coin, you know. But again, most of the ICOs are raised now under two types of tokens. It's either utility token or security token. So example of utility token is whenever you buy a token that afterwards is accepted as the payment method in the product. So for example, when there was Filecoin ICO, Storage ICO, they kind of sold their tokens that afterwards, like each token represented some amount of space you bought or some amount of services you got. It can be also called a voucher. So it's something like any website, any service can accept money now. So you can, for example, do like all the startups there, they're providing some services, some advices, some technical solution, and they get money for it. And in the case of ICO, you just get this money way before the final product is ready. So, for example, if you already developed the product and you now issue tokens, it wouldn't be considered an ICO. Like you won't at least have hassled with regulators, because you did some like coin currency that you already can use. But in the case of the ICO, most of the ICOs, the product isn't ready there, and there's the promise of this product will be delivered somewhere in the future. And in US and in some other jurisdictions, there's now lots of pressure, because most of the regulators, while like they understand and there's a lot of debate regarding the utility token, they still recognize that at this stage it looks like investment in the company, and under the regulation you need to register in the commission, you know, like issue all those documents. So it defeats the purpose of the ICO being like simple and easy way to collect money. You just can get lots of trouble. So for example, if you go with the utility token, one of the frameworks that developed, and like watch the disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal person. I'm just on some, you know, low level of understanding of how really legal things work. But as like from my perspective on the market, like there was the so-called SAFT developed, Simple Agreement for Future Tokens. And in this case, whenever somebody gives you money for that, you don't even like issue a token for them. So you only promise to deliver it afterwards. So it's really, you know, like at the stage of the ICO, you can collect all the money and kind of freeze them there and issue tokens only after a year or so. So you like whenever you want to start an ICO and so on, you should totally understand, like, would you really issue a token at this time, or would it be at some place in the future? But again, not all of the startups there, projects there, they're developing utility token. Most of the product, they say that we're gonna profit in some way, and we will distribute this profit between our customers. And it's directly what like Security Commission says. They say like, hey, we have something like how we test. How we test says that like I'm giving money, like the token is a security. If like I as an investor give you money, do nothing and get the profit. And basically this is the same thing, you know, like it's totally security token. But for example, there's like new thing called initial loan procurement that a couple of companies are now doing in in Eastern Europe. I forgot the country. And they structure it as a loan. So it's not a part in the company. It's a loan you give us, but the percentage we'll give you back on the loan is dynamically attached to our profits. So on our profits. So this is kind of a keystone of whenever you do the ICO, you would need to stop and understand it. And it would be really, it can be really hard to change the sites during the ICO and after the pre-ICO. So it's one of the things I as investor and you as a founder would like to understand that lays on all of the things afterwards. So like you sell the tokens, right? How do you issue the token? Well, Ethereum became such a big thing because of the smart contracts it had, and because you basically could run some programs on it rather than just have a ledger database. You could also, run some code there, and they created something called the ERC20 standard, and basically most of the ICOs, like 95% of the ICOs, they use the standard of the ERC20 token, and they launch their token on the Ethereum. So all the transactions, like they created on Ethereum, they send it back and forth on the Ethereum network. But we should also know that there are other platforms that are less used, which like Waves, which is more Russian-based, Stellar that had like one major ICO, like but still, there are also other platforms as well. Then you can issue a token. For example, you can issue it like in 3 ways. First of all, you can you're planning to have 1 billion of tokens at some time. You can either issue like 1 billion of them right from now and sell all of them, for example, or distribute, or you want to, you understand that you're gonna break it down into several steps. You don't want to give access to manage these tokens for some reason right from the start. So you're gonna be $1 billion company soon, but for now you just want to, allocate 10% of them, like, Crowdsale that, work on that, and whenever you need the next rounds, for example, you can do a gradual issuance. And also there's the third model is the continuous model, which is like inflation model. So for example, like as we know with Bitcoin and Ethereum, with the process of mining, we create new coins, right? But it's not only for such systems. So for example, Aragon has also, as far as I know, some inflation model. So in order for the system to have ability for the continuous, like forever existing and always having money there, you can foresee some, continuous delivery of token. But if we're talking about the ICO, whenever you want to, if you really represent the amount of shares in some way or another, so if you're saying that we were gonna have like $1 million revenue, and whoever has 10% will get 1/10 of that percent. Then the investor won't really be happy for their unlimited issuance, because it will get their stack lower, So in each case, network can need different approach. But in the most cases, like the most easy case is just to generate all the tokens, sell the part you need for the crowd sale, get other for the team. It's usually what's used. The third point is that where do you store all those tokens? So potentially those billions of tokens represent some future worth, and you don't want to store it on the light wallet in your, some Jax or other like online wallet. So you want it to be safe. So in this case, you use something called multisig. So it's a wallet that releases money from it only if some criteria is met. For example, like in this case, you have for example, 5 co-founders in your product. So if 3 out of 5 accept this transaction, sign these transactions, only then the money or the tokens go out. So yeah, whenever you issue them, you probably store them. Multi-sig is better also from the security point of view. It would be way harder to, for example, break down your wallet and get your funds out in this case. So the crowd sale. A couple of things about the crowd sales, like what currencies we can sell to and from, what can be the stages, what do you need to know about the KYC and the interface of the crowd sale. So typically when the first ICO happened, it was just an Ethereum smart contract. You send the Ethereum to the contract gave you back, or like signed for you, the given amount of tokens you bought. It was the simplest thing ever. It's like almost anybody can do that, easily with no hassle. Just create it, use the same network, collect money, right? Yeah. Then, we already know that the major economy is in the Bitcoin. So how do we would really like to accept other coins, Bitcoin most of all. Like in some cases, Bitcoin represents the 90% of all crowd sale income. So it's getting a bit harder, currently some of the some of the ICOs collect only Ethereum, and they say, hey, change Ethereum wherever you want, just give us Ethereum, it's your hustle. Then some accept Ethereum BTC on their own. And then we have, and Kirill will tell a bit about how would you manage that. And then there's a whole ocean of different coins, being some major coins like Monero, Litecoin, and Dash, but also like thousands of different coins got from the either ICOs generated somewhere that are sold on the exchanges and so on. So in this case, you probably would need to integrate with some exchange or processor that would allow them. It's again the biggest hassle around all of that is that how would you know the appropriate rate that can be changed through the ICO? So for example, people who did the ICOs in Ethereum back last summer, they got their millions back even back then the price of Ethereum ran way higher, and they kind of got 2-3 times from their proceeds. Again, now the Ethereum is lower and they need to adapt to that. But what, for example, would happen if you accept BTC and your contract is obviously in Ethereum, and then the BTC price drops significantly connected to the Ethereum. You need to track all of that, but also you don't want to scare out investors if you're, if the rate, they won't be ready to give you at the substantially higher rates than there are. So there are some approaches to that, but that's basically the questions raised around the acceptance of other currencies. Some of the ICOs, they kind of set their goals in the Ethereum, so they would like to connect 10,000 Ethereum. But if you take the perspective of businesses that need to pay salaries and rent and so on, they would mostly look at getting those proceeds in the dollar amount, and to not have this rates difference. They would also cash out after the ICO, and they would also allow fiat. One of my friends on the marketing side of ICO, he said that whenever the BTC and Ethereum rates are flat, it's a good time for ICOs because there's no growing of the market. If we'll see growing of the BTC, then investors can think about it. Hey, why should I invest in the ICO that can be good or not whenever my current asset, being Ethereum or BTC, is growing? So they kind of have this, second thought. So whenever the BTC or Ethereum is on the rise, fiat can become the major vehicle, because then people can think, okay, BTC is growing, but dollars are not growing at the same pace. So why should, like, if I want to invest here, between all of these options, I can choose fiat. How do you decide the price of the coin? Well, there would be one section in the end of my presentation regarding the Dutch auction model, and I will, if you don't mind, I'll stop on this question and talk a bit about this price. So, well, lots of people now, when talking about doing the ICOs, they say there's the ICO, but we also have the pre-ICO. And while doing the ICO currently costs like $100,000. So I've heard like $100,000. It's the smallest ICO, kinda. If you go with the team, marketing agency, and so on, like the middle-sized ICO expenditures can come up to like 300,000. So you kind of like raise money to raise money afterwards. That's, for me at least, how it looks like with the pre-ICO ICO model. So again, I think doing ICO in stages is really a good decision. Like we had some whales that just instantly did, like Telegram, for example, just instantly did billions in revenues. Everybody knows them. They don't need, pre-ICO for this sake. But if you're a smaller startup company, then you probably can go with the stages, and it can be even not just one pre-ICO, right? So if you think about how currently market works, so we have this Series A, Series B, Series C. So it's a good thing to have stages. You can think in this direction, I think. And it's also, from the investor's point of view, well, when investors really believe 100% like they need to invest, they'll invest anyway, right? Without the discounts, like without anything. But if the market is already populated, so for example, there are like 2, 3, like 4 or more, companies in the US segment that are doing ICO as well, or done the ICO before, so the investor would like to kind of be sure that you'll use the money wise, that it would be, there would be some customer development, some workings on the steps. So for this reason, going with the lower rounds, and not getting all the like 30 millions, 100 millions from the start, that can be like a good thing from the investor perspective. And yeah, like for that reason, so when you're on the later stage, when you got lots of money and you just need another big round, there's not that high risk for the investor. The earlier the stage, the higher the risk. So it's a good thing to reward people for the risk. And usually companies offer some discount from, 10, 20, 30, like half, 50% discount on these stages. And they also, like you can, for example, you can set up some like outcome scenarios on your race, and it would be also a good sign that you've aimed like at the best scenario for the like 20 million, but you have a plan if you raise 10 million, for example. The only thing, like if like in the usual economy, we try to give a bonus for the big buyer. If you, for example, or like if there's one investor willing to invest just $1 million, and he's asking for the like volume percent, not the stage percent, but additional, or like for his volume, or even you want to give this percentage of the volume. Well, it's good, like in the typical business, but in the crypto community, some people don't really like it because they say that it benefits the more wealthy people, and not like everybody should have the same rights. So you may get some critics, just a small warning here. Also, there's a concept of hard caps and soft caps. So hard cap represents basically the amount of token you have. So for example, you've issued 1 billion tokens and you want like, you have only like 500 million for the crowd sale. So you can't sell more than that. So it's hard cap. You can't raise more than that usually, if you have the fixed amount. Some ICOs go with unlimited issuance, so we'll collect all the money you give us, right? And we'll find a way to use them for the better good. But you know, maybe this approach would work worse, well, when the market matures. So you kind of, most of the ICOs have the hard cap, but they also have this like soft cap that makes sense for them. So for example, you're doing an ICO in order to collect like 20 millions, you're okay collecting 10 millions. You'll be a bit worried, but still okay with, I don't know, like 5 millions, but you collected like 50K, you know. In this case, usually we say that for example, 5 million being the, like 1 million being your most modest, request. If you collect less than 1 million, then we just call the crowd sale like unsuccessful and we return the money. So in most of the contracts, like for the good, like good-minded ICOs that kind of care, they have this feature of refunding in the case of unsuccessful ICO. So that's what we have there. Now, KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering. So basically, in the simple words, whenever a regulator wants to check you, you need to have all the documents regarding all your investors, all the names, addresses, scans of the passports, photos, as much as you can. You need to kind of be sure, know who your investors are, and be ready to share this information to the regulators. That's what they want. So like in the worst case, like whenever we are collecting Ethereum, would give money like for the development of Ethereum, like make all the, like, we won't go to the real world. We'll still be in this Ethereum network. In this case, we can, in most cases, not even bother, we will not be connected to some legal, again, not a legal advice, that's the approach of some companies I know. I can't say that it's my approach. Probably I'm closer to the second or third option, but in some cases you just don't need it. In the other cases, what they do, like they just open a whitelist subscription. So they either create a Google form, or they just directly talk to every investor. They just require this information, in return somehow. They may not require that if the investment amount is less than some, like, for example, if it's less than 5K, like some projects do not require lots of information, but maybe some information. And there's already like not limited by these three options, but lots of different services. This are being like ones I've seen recently that do the KYC for you. So for example, like it's, I think, CoinList or something, they have two options. Either investors submits his data to the service, and even like if he's doing this on his will, he can pay like $50 or something. And then in any ICO he wants to participate, he just gives access to his account, and he doesn't need to submit all this information many times. Or the ICO can buy some amount of these checkups, So in the first case, the checkup is done on the investor's bill, and then it's more convenient for him. In the other cases, the ICO may want to make everybody to do this checkup, so they can even pay for some number of checkups on their side and get this information. So those are the options for these companies provide professional checkups that may be needed. If the regulator asks you, they will have all the information in the right way, and they will be sure that it's right. Because for now, for example, in some ICO, you can submit the fake data, being a terrorist, like invest in some ICO, and like you can get into some trouble that you're not checking it properly, and it's not your work, like basically. So some of the ICO, they don't have interface. Again, if it's just the Ethereum wallet, then you just have the wallet address, send us money, you get back on your wallet that you sent from the tokens. But whenever we get into like when we want to collect more, if we're thinking about ways, how can we ensure that first of all we make it good use of our marketing, so we're not just sending everybody to the landing and then it's on their it's on their site to find the ways to invest, and if they have problem questions, we don't care. If you want to take our investor hand and get him through the whole funnel, from the registration, KYC, all the support things and so on, then you need to ensure some interface. And also if you want to enable complex logics, for example, like automatical exchanges from the BTC to Ethereum, or accepting BTC on like separate, or we want to do many stages and kind of, give notifications and so on. So there's a market there already for some panels, investor panels for the ICOs. And we're doing like Iconics is one of them that we're developing. Overall, like why we started to do something like this, like is that, well, now some ICOs try to, like that have engineers, they try to develop this panel on their own, which is also fine. But first of all, it can take some time out of the project. So instead of doing the project, you're doing this investor panel, and there could be some errors, there could be some redeployment issues, so technical issues. Then again, you don't have time to test as well, so it ends up in, for example, low usability. So it's clear for you, but investors can find hard to invest. They can have questions, or it would be unclear, like on the process, how you do that when you get the tokens. So there's usability issues. Then the other thing, if you connect marketing, you can have the problems with connecting your analytics and other engines. And also there's lots of traffic coming from mobile if you buy traffic, and also hacks. So, well, there's like quite some features that that would rather make you use some existing panel. I'm not saying like Iconics in every example, but I'd rather suggest you to use some, at least a box solution. So advanced techniques. First of all, like again, many now use this, but not use it as it could be. There's some thing called bounties. So they can, like we dedicate some amount of our tokens to support the community for their effort, being the developers who help find bugs or even critical hacks in your ICO or your product. It can be advisors that guide you through this process and give you advice. You want to reward them with some tokens. And then there's like marketing activities like airdrops for user acquisition, and referral programs when you want to give someone a reward based on the, like if I can take Kirill to invest and he's a big investor, then I can be rewarded for that as well. I don't have like currently like can share the numbers, but again, whenever you want to, the market is only starting. There's like, around a year of professional ICO, work there. So I think as in e-commerce, as in other fields, like mobile marketing and so, we will see that there would be lots of clutter on the market. Lots of products wishing to, collect money and everything. And there would be like some levels, some new techniques, some advancements you need to go to in order to be visible there. So you may want to consider those. Then one of the interesting concepts is the reverse Dutch auction. In this auction, like you start, like for example, you're doing like 14 days sale, and on the first day of sale, the price is the maximum. So let's say $100 per coin. Next day it's like $50 per coin, and next it's 25. So it gradually decreases in the value. So what is it good for? So we had this question, like, how do you decide the price of the coin? And well, again, as we said, the coin or the token is a promise, and you know, like, if I'm a good, honest man, you know, my promise is worth more than somebody's. You know, like, if I'm a company that's you know, really perspective, like it's worth more, but the market decides. So most of the investors, they invest and they like assume that, okay, like I invest at the like $1 per token now, and I kind of see that I will sell that at $10 per token if everything's good, right? So I assume my risk, so I want it to grow like really high, you know, like at least one of the tokens should go really high, then I will get the money for all of my expenditures and even more. So currently, I see most of the tokens are valued at some cents. I've seen like 10 cents, like 50 cents, sometimes it's $1. But again, like, what does it make if we should look at the volume as well? So, for example, where the reverse Dutch auction comes good is that you kind of allow market to decide what would the price be, because every investor would like to, like, investor that would like to get your token, they would look at the scale and they will understand, okay, I will invest like closer to the end. So I'm okay with paying, for example, $1 per token. But he also doesn't, like, he doesn't want to miss it out. So it's like FOMO thing, like fear of missing out. So he would be stimulated as he will see that the tokens would be selling at some slower or faster pace. You know, he will see that the situation is changing, and at the comfortable pricing where it's like enough for, like, it's a good price for him, but still, you know, not sold, not all the tokens sell, he can come into the sale and like buy at this price. So like other thing, like it's not wide used technique. Most of the ICOs, like, it was just like couple of 2 or 3 ICOs, they showed that by using this technique, they sold tokens faster, and overall they got a better sum, because they didn't assume anything. They just assumed the starting price, the ending price, and the market kind of performed as well as it could, right? So if you're fearing that, if you have a fear that you will stay at a price too high, well, yeah, you would be assuming some expenditures in any way. But another way is to just like, in one of the white papers I wrote for the educational space project, I just took some other projects in this space, not just in crypto, but also in just typical venture deals. And I tried to kind of compare them on the, you know, levels, and get the same percentage. So like some comparable pricing. And finally, one of the things I'm like really passionate about is the Dico concept. In this concept, the ICO is run afterwards by the investors, but it's not run, but like the investor has some influence on what happens after the ICO. So we know lots of really bad examples when the there was some ICO collected in Estonia, for example, guys, or Lithuania. They collected like 5 or 10 millions or something. They wrote on their like landing page like not a good word, you know, and just nobody's have seen them afterwards, right? So whenever like you get the ICO lots of money, you know, it's really like you have a temptation, because like you can take this money and just do nothing, you know, or overspend, get you really high salary, you know, like 50K per month, you know, go with a posh office and everything, and never ever care about giving good results in your business, right? So you always have this temptation. I'm saying like everybody does that, but with this concept, the investors, they can set kind of cap, which is amount that can be taken from the overall funds collected by the, for example, months, right? So some company can take, for example, 20K per month for the expenditures on the early stages. Then they can set up a voting for the investors. Hey guys, we're like we need to hire more engineers for this and this reason. We need at least some amount of money monthly. So please get a higher tab, set up the voting. Whoever doesn't go to the voting, their votes are not counted, but whoever votes, they could set up the higher tab or not, so it's at least some mechanism of working. So again, if you do an ICO, maybe like it's some complexity added to your life and work, but again, as we see the space maturing, there could be some more higher requirements. So for example, one of the first Dico like ICO that's going there, they're using it as a marketing step. They're saying, hey, we're responsible ICO, and that's working for them. I see I talk too much, and I suggest to just put all the questions till the end so we can hear Kirill with his technical side. Again, feel free to submit questions and we'll spend some time at the end. Giving word to Kirill.
Yeah, hi. Good read.
Yeah. Like I'll also send the presentation after the webinar with some interesting links if you want to.
Okay.
Just
my notes. Okay, so topic, like let's look to the ICO from the technical perspective. So I will let me introduce me. So I'm like with Max, we founded Fire Labs like some long time ago. I have like about 10 or even more years in software development, starting from some social games, and now I'm researching and consulting on blockchain, and very interested in all these blockchain technologies. So I want to speak about technical side of the ICO. So what is it? Token from the technical perspective, how we can run Crowdsale, and how we can like give users some better experience, or give investors some better experience, how they can invest their money or bitcoins or some altcoins to buy your tokens. So first of all, let's start from the technical implementation of token. So as Max told before, token is some promise or something unique, for example. So from the technical perspective, token is a record in some distributed ledger. So it is just a line of code where, for example, in smart contract, or it is just a record in the database where you can see that some investor has like some amount of tokens. So let me show it to you, like in the source code of some Solidity smart contract. Yeah, so from technical perspective, what is a token? Token is just this line of code. So it is like who, address of investor, and how much he owns, how much token he owns. So that's it. So, and the easiest way to just a second. The easiest way to run your own token or create your own token, it is to create some smart contracts in Solidity ledger, in Solidity programming language, and deploy it to the Ethereum network. So what is it, ERC20? ERC20, it is like, I think that 99% of people don't know where is the difference between ERC20 and like token. So ERC20, it is a standard. So it is a standard that was developed like in 2015, as I know. So it allows, the standard allows like decentralized applications from dApps and wallets to handle tokens. Like it is a standard, it is a protocol how some third-party applications can like transfer tokens to each other, or through this application you can buy tokens, or like you can exchange it on some exchanges or decentralized exchanges. So it is a protocol. This protocol, it is just some like page on the GitHub where you can see like several functions that should be implemented in your Solidity smart contract. And if you implement this function, so you have your ERC20 compliant token. That's all. Okay, so you want to start an ICO, and you want to, of course, first of all, you need to develop your own token. So so now it's really easy to do this. You even shouldn't be a developer. You shouldn't know any like programming languages. There are a lot of some tutorials in the internet. So here I put some links. It is like 3, 4, 5 links to some articles in the internet that you can read and run your own token. So it is not a big deal. So I can, let's speak about basic basic things. So first of all, to run your own token, you need, I'm speaking about like a token from the Ethereum, so ERC20 compliant. You need, first of all, Ethereum client, which is called Get. You can download it, install on your computer. You need to have some like some skills in like using your like laptop to do this, but it's not so complex task. So it is just a client to the Ethereum network. So one more thing is Truffle. Truffle, it is a framework that every Solidity or every Ethereum developer uses. It is some library that allows us to like easy and simply test our smart contracts and deploy it to the network. So that's all. Some command line tool. And the magic thing is Zeppelin Solidity. It's some framework or some library, some amount or several smart contracts that you can use to run your own, to create your own token and to run your own Crowdsale without writing any line of code. So when you install all of this stuff, so you can create your own token. So here already in the Zeppelin Solidity repository, you can find an example, and it is really simple. I can show. So it is your own token. That's all. So you only need to like change 4 parameters, like the name of the token, symbol of the token, number of like decimals. It is like how many tokens will be in initial supply. For example, here initial supply is 10,000 times 10 in the power of like 18. So only these 4 parameters, and deploy it to the network. And okay, you have your own like token. That's all. Next, when you have token, you want to run your Crowdsale. So if we speak about like simple Crowdsale, it is very easy. You even can, using like Zeppelin Solidity, you can add some options there. For example, make it refundable, or add some like soft and hard cap there. It is very easy, and it is already developed by guys from Open Zeppelin company. So it is cheap method, it is very fast, and it is secure because you shouldn't do any security audit, because all the code that you are using, if you're only changing the parameters but not touch any other source code, so it is audited before, so you shouldn't do additional security audit for this. So okay, here just several links. Okay, you want to create an ICO with some hard cap. Here it is. You can use like already prepared smart contract that is in the Zappa Solidity repository called capped Crowdsale. Specify the cap, and that's all. You have a Crowdsale smart contract. If you want to make it refundable, also no problem. So everything is written for you before. So just write a goal. If this goal is achieved, so refund is so if the goal is achieved, so refund will be cancelled. If goal is not achieved, when you finalize the ICO, so everybody can refund their funds with the invested before. And if you want to combine all of this stuff, so here it is. You can do it like very easy, like capped Crowdsale, refundable Crowdsale, minted Crowdsale. So just write it here and just specify some parameters, and that's also you have your own Crowdsale smart contract. So then you need just to deploy it to the network, and you have your ICO. You can start. But that's great. It's very simple. It's very fast, but it's not so convenient, because you have like smart contracts, but you don't have any user interface that your investors can use to buy your tokens. And so they should use, for example, some MetaMask, or if they want to buy a token for Bitcoin, they need to change change Bitcoin from some exchange to Ethereum, and then using some Ethereum wallet, send transactions to the smart contract address. And it's not so easy, it's not convenient. You need to write lots of tutorials and to explain how your investors can do this. Okay, so what's next? We want to make your investors' life easier, and you want to accept, for example, Bitcoins. Okay, it's not a problem, but there are lots of tasks to do this. For example, if you have like pre-ICO and you can you know all of your investors, you know their wallet, so you can run just some Google form and ask where investors can put their Bitcoin addresses, and then you can see list of transactions on your wallet and manually assign some tokens to your investors. It can work, but of course it can work only for some small amount of investors, and maybe for some pre-ICO or some pre-sale. But what to do if you want to run Crowdsale for the wallet and you don't know how many investors you'll have? So tasks become more complex. So another aspect is, for example, you want to make some more complex logic for pricing. You want to run your own pricing strategy. You want to run some stages for the ICO, or maybe you want to run some reverse Dutch auction. Yeah, for example, something like this. So to do this, of course, you need to write your own smart contracts to do security audit for these contracts, because even if it is simple, you don't know, your developers cannot find like all of the bugs in advance, so you need to run some security audits, which cost you, of course, money and time. So two things. And if we speak about like investor cabinet, where you can accept Bitcoins or some altcoins, it is some backend developer, some web application. So you want this application to be fault tolerant, to run like 100% of time without bugs, etc., etc. So you need something like monitoring of this web application, you need some logging, you need to receive some emails when something goes wrong, you need to update it somehow. So also a task. So other things like KYC, marketing, like customer support. So all these things make your ICO, like investors cabinet or your ICO website, they make it more and more complex. So I want to show you how some basic ICO investors cabinet looks like from the technical perspective. So it is just a diagram of the ICO cabinet where you can accept Ethereum and Bitcoin to sell your tokens for your tokens. So I will not go deeply into. I will not go into details and describe all of these items, but just want to show that like smart contracts, it's only one part of the big system. So what you also need to run your like investors cabinet. So first of all, of course, you need smart contracts, which we already like discussed. It's simple or maybe not simple if you develop your custom. So you need to run like not for every altcoin or cryptocurrency that you want to receive. Like Bitcoin or Ethereum, of course. You need to write your like website, front end, maybe it's landing page, maybe it is some investors cabinet where you like, give users some give investors some good user interface where they can see the list of the transactions, the amount of money they invested, etc., etc. You need to write, of course, you need to have some backups because you need to back up the database where your investors' information stored. You need to run some alternate monitoring service, so you want to be sure that everything works fine 24 hours, 7 days per week. You need to run your like login tool, so you need to track every change on the server because I know you can be hacked and you need to find some logs to understand the issue. And everything, so for example, we prefer to run it on the cloud because it reduces our cost for maintenance of or server provisioning. It's easier to run it on the cloud. So it's what components of ICO cabinet like you can have, and it is something like minimum to provide good user experience for investors. So about testing, very like important thing in running your Crowdsale is to have like good testing of your smart contracts, or if you're running your ICO cabinet, to have good testing on the whole system. So do not save on testing because of course it leads to bugs, and it leads to some maybe hacker attacks and something like this, because there can be lots of money and somebody can like hack your system and maybe issue big amount of tokens. And you cannot do anything with this because blockchain is immutable and you cannot reverse a transaction. So good idea is to run several environments. If you're doing like complex ICO with like different complex smart contracts, developing some custom logic, so it's a good idea is to run 3 environments. So first one is development environment, where your developers, or you if you're a developer, can like develop smart contracts, test them, and but this environment, like development environment, should be very fast, because you shouldn't. So because you don't need to spend lots of time for running smart contracts on the development environment. As it's in, for example, that's why it cannot be some testnet, because running transactions on testnet can like take some maybe seconds, maybe minutes, and it's not good because it takes your time. So that's why for development environments there are lots of libraries like Gananchi or TesterPC or Rectest for Bitcoin, but it allows you to develop fast, but it is very different from the production one. So development environment from smart contracts, it's really different from mainnet on Ethereum, for example, because at mainnet you have big delays, latency, transactions are paid, etc., etc. So, but you need somehow test your application or your smart contracts without deploying it to the production environment. So that's why you need to have staging environment, which is similar to production environment, but you shouldn't pay for any transactions. So there are 2 approaches. So you can use testnet for Ethereum testnet, for example, or you can run your own like private net. But yeah, so you should know that to have the 3 environments to do all this testing stuff will take lots of time. So you should be ready for this. Yeah, and also you should like your developers should keep code coverage on very high level. In smart contracts, it should be 100%, I think, maybe 99%, but everything should be covered with unit tests. Because so your ICO or your smart contracts can save or store millions of dollars, and you don't want, of course, to need them. So what about security of such a system? So if you run your ICO cabinet, you should have security audit of all the backend, all web application, because there are possibility of attacks on not on the like smart contracts, but on the backend. And even maybe if you are running like additional nodes of altcoins and you accept some different altcoins, you always have some backend applications that doing synchronization of wallets, like checking the activity of Bitcoin wallets, for example, and then if, for example, your investors send some Bitcoins, this backend will transfer some tokens to his Ethereum wallet, and during this process there can be some potential vulnerabilities. So you need to do some security audit for this part of the application. Yeah, Max told before about multi-sig wallets and cold wallets. So there's a question where you want to store money you received from your investors, and multi-sig wallets is a good idea because it's not only secure you from or protect you from some technical attacks, but even from some social engineering attacks, because you are not the only person who are responsible for withdrawing the funds. Cold wallets. So here is the link for multi-sig wallet. It is Gnosis, as I remember. You can. It's not. It hasn't very good user interface, but it is good application. Yeah, cold wallets also a good idea if you are the only founder. You can buy cold wallet, or for example hardware wallet. It is very similar to some USB drive, so that holds your private key that's not connected to the internet, and you can send the transaction from this wallet only by manually tap that button or push the button on this hard wallet device. Or even you can combine these two wallets. For example, you can have a multi-sig wallet with several accounts that can be hardware wallets, and more secure stuff. Okay, so security of smart contracts. Yeah, I have read some statements that writing smart contracts code, it's like writing a very serious code for NASA. So writing smart contracts not complex task. It is simple. Solidity, it's very simple programming language, but it's not perfect. There are lots of potential hacking attacks that can be done for your smart contract. There are lots of articles how to with the most common attacks. Your developer should know these possible attacks, but you cannot your developers cannot guarantee that after writing the smart contracts it hasn't vulnerabilities at all. So you need to run you need to do some security audit, and the best idea is to do this audit with several companies, not only with one company. Also, a good thing for security is bug bounty program. So what is it? It is just creating clones of your smart contracts and run them on testnet, and create some, for example, topic on Bitcoin Talk, where you can tell anybody that if they find some vulnerability in these smart contracts, you can give them some bounty. So here is an article the good way how to do this. So there are some automatic bug bounties, but automatic bug bounties also can have some bugs. So I think that the easiest way is to run the clone of your smart contracts on testnet and send some tokens to people who find some bug there. Yeah, also you should be ready for hacks on your landing page on your website. So hackers can for example, can change wallet address on your website and hack your website and change the wallet address where you want to receive funds from investors. They can go into the Slack that you created for this ICO, or to the Telegram group, and write from your from your name, for example. And yeah, you also it is not technical attacks, but social engineering attacks, but you also should be ready for this. I think that the most I think that the most but the potential vulnerabilities is your website and these communication channels, not only smart contracts or your application backend. So to run an ICO, the good ICO with good investors cabinet and with accepting different cryptocurrencies or maybe fiat. So who you need to do this? What development team you need? So as you can see, so can be 6 people. It is like Solidity engineer who can write your smart contracts. It should be a front-end engineer who can develop your landing pages, a website, or front-end for ICO cabinet. It should be backend engineer who can run all these backend stuff with synchronizing wallets, and you need to run DevOps because it is good architectural task, infrastructural task to run all of these components of the system on the cloud, on your web servers. You need to have designer and project manager, of course. You can be a project manager. So time frames to develop like simple smart contracts can be from like 1 day to 1 week. It's not a big problem, but to run the fully functional ICO cabinet, fully functional ICO website with some complex logic and smart contracts, it can be several months, and you need also to put some time for security audit, some buffer tools for security audit, even for several security audits, because maybe you need to have to do some changes in your backend system. So here is some, for example, our production environment for ICONX, only production environment with Bitcoin and Ethereum nodes and backend and backups and so on. It costs us about $400 per month for Amazon. When you're doing budgeting, so of course you need to add some budget for support, like adding some quick fixes, maybe in your backend or in your smart contracts, and support for the infrastructure. So to maybe, I don't know, something can happen with your server, so you need to run it. So, and yeah, also you need to put some money for some bug bounty programs. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, guys, we feel sorry about taking so much. It's just so many things we need to tell. So I hope you can excuse us. And now finally, who survived till the end can ask their question. So one of the questions was from the Evgen regarding the how do you itemize. So to like the most like we had one of the audits we did published, like the case study of it published on the Medium. So just if you can navigate our like blog. There were some steps tech-wise you need to go through. Yeah, this one. So I can send a link to the chat. And we have here, yeah, all the steps like tester PC, corner cases, review, vulnerability tests, and so on. So you can use this for the information.
Regarding of the audit of Zeppelin, so they told that it is audited. Zeppelin, So it is community audited code. So I know that, for example, Consensus doing the audit of OpenZeppelin, but keep in mind that repository changes are very frequent. So, for example, latest changes 2 days ago, and of course they don't do audit like for every commit. So, like use some not develop a branch, but use some release versions.
Yeah, so it's way safer not to create a wheel, just use the existing contract.
Yeah.
Okay. Then if nobody else has a question, thanks a lot for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to just ping us, and me or Kirill or somebody else will totally try to help you. Yeah, do you propose more secure? Well, we kinda in our product in Iconix, we decided to create the missing part, being the usable and marketing friendly interface, and just to use Zeppelin contracts. So that's how we see it. It makes more sense. So I know that when there are some really unique contracts, so most of the ICOs go through the same scheme, but if you really need some unique logics, then yeah, you would need to write your own contracts, and it will be unique for each time, and you need to go to like 2-3 companies to do the audit. That's our take on this question. Okay, thanks again, and hope to see you next time on our webinars. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.